Greetings, sanibonani, absheng, Hotep, Dumelang, Molweni, Ashe, Tozani. Welcome to a space called the House of Jehuti, where we're going to be dissecting a universal principle known as Anpu. Other people, they know Anpu as Anubis. That's what the Romans and the Greeks called this universal principality when they came here in Africa to study these things. So, Anpu, what is Anpu? Anpu, in his iconography, is represented by a figure with a body of a person and the head of a jackal. So these are universal, intricate realities. You understand? So they might not appeal to a layman's view, to an average mind. So there was a need for our ancestors to anthropomorphize all of these intricate matters of the spirit and formulate them in a form of allegories or izinganekwane. And surely you have attested to this when you read such as the Baba Credo Moto's book, Indaba My Children, the renowned Indaba My Children, and Songs of the Stars, Zulu Shaman, whatnot. All of these stories, they come in a form of allegories, metaphors, parables, you understand. It's more of like in ancient times when our grannies and grandpas, they used to set up a fire and we would sit around and then they would tell us laws, folklore, but they were not just tales. They were codes entailing of other divine spiritual mysteries that it governs even this gross physical life, you know what I mean? Yeah, so that to a point here, who is Anpu? Anpu is this figure with an iconography of this being, with the body of a man, meaning that denoting it's earthly matters, humanly. But the jackal, with our ancestors, head of a jackal. So with our ancestors, you understand that they used to observe the rhythmic patterns of nature and nature's behavioral patterns, you understand, and then they will attribute all of those to human affairs. And that's how they came up with the system of totems and stuff like that. Nature, from animal kingdom to mineral kingdom, avian kingdom, plant kingdom, they would observe the behavioral patterns within these nature clusters and sort of attribute precepts, found there and ascribe them to ancient sociology, how our ancient communities used to govern themselves. They wanted to progress forward. So, Anpu, with the head of a jackal. The jackal is an instinctual animal in a Serengeti. It's slow that lives out of our instincts. How it moves about, how it navigates about, leading its life. So why Anpu was ascribed with that animalistic attributes? That's because all of these netters, or rather divine universal principles, they also represent or epitomizes the sacred aspects that makes a living sentient human being. The asa is the soul. When you talk about offset, we talk about the divine wisdom of the heart. Because remember, in the scale of math, it's the heart that gets to be tested against the feather. So when we talk about Heru, we talk about the cosmic principle. We understand representing the mastery, the mastery of both worlds, the physical life and spirituality, how to balance spirituality and the materialistic life here on this gross physical earth. So these are the sacred universal principalities, also mirrors the divine aspect that makes a human being. You know what I mean? So why is it to Anpu? It embodies, basically Anpu embodies our instincts within us, within this microcosm which mirrors the grandeur universe, the macrocosm. So Anpu how did Anpu came about? And then Osa, which is the soul, the mating of Osa and Oset, because they are in a conjugal union. All of these netas are figure in pairs because the reality are relatively within time and space realm. I understand it's catalyzed by duality. I understand that's why there's a right side of the brain, the left side of the brain. There's a woman, there's a man. I understand and ganjalo. But via densities must kubega with the evolution of the densities. You know there is what is in between. You understand. Besides black and white, there is shades of grey in between. You understand. Yeah, there's up, there's down, and but there's middle again. So there's a story for another day, right? Yeah, so they are all in a pairing conjugal unions. Yeah, but the mating of Osa and Oset, you understand, have engendered Uhiru, this mastery of both horizons. You know, the upper, which is like symbolic to spirituality, so mundo, and the physical life. You understand, like the earthly life. You understand, yeah. So at one point, Set represents the ego in man, but Set can also represent the pillar of the soul, of the souls. Yeah? We can turn Uset into being one of the astral divine consciences, yeah, according to the precept of Ma'at, the divine principles. Yeah? The consort to Uset being Neptet, representing our mortality. We understand we once came. Got to be preserved, but at one point we'll detach this physical earth and get to transmigrate to another forms of the energy, you know, thereafter. So these netters, as I said, would represent the aspect, divine aspects that makes a human being. But there was a need for our ancestors to anthropomorphize them, so that they can appeal to even to a layman's view, we understand, to an average mind, because these are intricate divine articles of the spirit, you understand. Imagine if spirit is figure and like he's just bomb Russia, we wouldn't, you know, catch up. So that's why there was a need for these matters to come in a form of allegories, parables, you know, folklore tales, you know. Yeah, but they are not tales, you know. Behind Warner, there is a deepest meaning. Codes. These are codes. Yeah. So our ego, you know, epitomized by Uset, our ego is counterproductive to his soul. You know, the brother to his soul is ego. So these two polarities, there's a God and there's a Satan. Yeah. There's no God out there, there's no Satan with horns at the tail, only very like, you know, in hell. No. But all of these are divine principles, they are all embedded within a human being as a microcosm, you know what I mean? So the arch enemy, your soul, Osa, is the ego, the lower forces of the ego. Remember, the ego can be the pillars of the soul, known as the Jedu. But on the lower states, talking about the quaternary personality of a person, you know, more clinging into materialism, lower tendencies, you know, such as gossips, lies, like a person who's more inclined into immorality. We understand that we talk about that. I don't want to talk about the forces of entropy by Uset. So Uset is counterproductive. Therefore, at one incident, according to the tale, according to the law, folklore here, you might say. So, according to this allegory, Oset, you know, they took it up to themselves. They wanted to spread the word of divinity, the word of Ra, the supreme God, this one singular source. You understand? I'm working his head divinity, because God is androgynous. He's not a she or androgynous. So she works out his divinity via the precepts or the principalities of Ma'at, the 42 laws of Ma'at. So Osa and Oset took it to themselves ukuthi spread the gospel of Ma'at, across the whole world. So at one point, Asa was away, at Djibouti, propagating the gospel of Ma'at, and then Oset, his consort, they got say like guiding the country. We understand that, make sure with the civilization prosper, there are no irregularities or unrighteousness, So the brother of Osa, who is Set, you understand that, sought to basically to usurp the throne, forcefully, we understand that. But he failed because Oset, the Unumkukulwane, we say that epitomizes the divine wisdom of the universe, or rather the divine wisdom of the micro-universe, the divine wisdom of the hearts, basically. You understand? Made sure Uset was failure in his attempt. So therefore, when the king Osa came back, the city was in jubilant, everybody was merry, you understand? And there was some feast, some ceremonial feast out there, and then the king got drunk. You understand? Yeah, he got drunk, and he missed his wife. You understand? So he wanted to get Moshe. So now there's this identical look between his wife, Osa, you understand, and Neptet, who is wife or consort to Set. We understand that the evil one. We have like he could by a far now, so the king, because they got drunk, we understand Osa, at his return, so they got drunk, and then he mistaken wife no Neptet. Basically Neptet and Osa like their sisters. So by far now, so Osa slept with Neptet instead of Oset, his like wife, rightfully. And out of that conjugal mating, a child came out, and then the child that they begot was Anpu. That's how Anpu came about. So I wonder what it came in the form of allegory, but if we can try to dissect it into pragmatic happenings of physical reality, the soul. One thing that can get the soul in a state of drunkenness, you understand, in a state of dismemberment. Remember, as I was once dismembered into 14 pieces. It is the ego. You understand? Once the soul is much more plunged into the forces, lower forces of the ego, into quaternary cells, like our principles are lower, you understand, these lower vibratory frequencies, you understand, shown as like jealousy, anger, hatred, unforgiveness, wrong motives, violence, all of these, the lower frequencies, you understand, they are an animation from the forces of Uset, and they can get the soul into a state of oblivion, spiritual slumber or spiritual drunkenness, you understand. So once the soul within is plunged into that sort of state, you understand, I will be progressive. I will be progressed like at all. So your mortality, because we came to incarnate this time-space realm from our mother's womb until the tomb. We are here to accumulate our experiences. You know what I mean? So these experiences will determine once you get to transmigrate to another realm, we understand that will you be able now, or you will be sent back, earthbound. So now that's our mortality here on earth. At one point we will detach this physical earth. So that is embodied by this divine principle called Neptet, who is wife to Set. So Set, because there is no innovation, there is no creativity, nothing good can come out of the forces of the ego, lower ego. You understand? So Set couldn't mate He couldn't even get mushy, we understand that, let alone being romantic with the uneptet wife work. And there was no child, there was no possibility of a child. I want to learn there because with the ego in us, remember these are principles, but representing the divine sacred aspects that makes up a human being as well. So with the ego, we can't even taste, we can't even like have a sense of progress within our lives. So ego anchors this immortality. That's why the ego is paired with neptet. So there was like neptet was spared via that night, whereby now the king came back and then was drunk. Now, which is the soul in us, my plunged into a state of oblivion, ignoring, refuting the truth, the gospel of Uma'at, the divine forces, you understand that the divine principles of the cosmos, of the universe. So, or said, the soul, out of that drunkenness, when the soul now is in the state of spiritual death, had to mate with our mortality, or his soul is capable of mating with immortality yethu. You understand? I must say drunk. We understand. So, kuleso state of drunkenness, spiritual slumber, it's only a person's moral instinct or instinctual moral guide that can take out a soul, or resurrect a soul from that sort of spiritual slumber. At one account, remember when Osa, the soul, was dismembered into 14 pieces. Anpu was also there. Because Anpu is this instinctual feeling that came out from the conjugal union of Osa and Neptet, accidentally. So, in that one account, when the king, the god king Osa, was dismembered by Uset, the forces of the ego, because ego kills the value of the soul, the divinity of the soul within us, the sacredness of the soul within us. So then it was Hetheru, and also it was Anpu, the moral instinct within us, divinely, that rose, or like with Oset and Neptet, her sister, that resurrected the king in that other account where Set maimed or attempted to maim Osa and dismembered him into 14 pieces. So back to this other account, Anpu came about that accidental conjugal union between Osa and Neptet, because he mistakenly thought ukuthi uNeptet kahle usisi wakhe, uwife wakhe Osa, and then there was a kid that they begot out of that sexual union, who was Anpu. So it's our moral instinct that can guide the soul throughout the process of spiritual death. That's why we say Anpu is an usher of dead soul. Because there is death that we know conventionally, but there is like the death that we experience while we are still living, incarnating. I understand where now the soul is not aligned or attuned to the divine precepts of Ma'at, the cosmic principles, of light and virtue and divinity. So the moral instinct within us tells us every time, in the wrong, when you're about to commit the wrong, it is the instinct that will guide you. And that's a resurrection, that's a day-to-day, that's a resurrection that we get to experience in this field patterning of time and space, about realm. So these are the universal principles that guide us. They serve as a ruler for the ship to navigate properly within the vast ocean of consciousness, So as we embrace the advent of the season of Anpu, we say Hotep, let us try to incline ourselves, to what the moral instinctual moral guide says, within, deep within. Everybody knows when and where to do the right thing, but like often enough it will be the forces of the ego that will keep on shoving these negative impulses, you understand, but there is that divine inner, intuitive voice that will keep on crying out, you understand, that will say, hey, don't even, go there, give it a rest. So let us embrace that voice within during this season, because it's a season of Anpu. And again, the mother of Anpu is Neptet, who accidentally slept with the usher, the higher soul. We say to Neptet, it also represents our mortality. Most usually during this period, we get to see the effect of that mortality, within the field patterning of time and space. You understand, a lot of deaths, we've been observing like these patterns year in and year out, you understand. So let us protect ourselves out there, engage in all that is of hibernation, keep away from negativity, and pay tribute and homage again to the ones who have ascended, you understand, with the guidance of Anpu. So we give thanks and praise, all the time. Hotep. Thanks for watching. Please interact. Please like. Please subscribe. Please ask, interact. It's not only about me delivering, vast amount of knowledge, but also to create a platform that is conducive for growth and freedom of expression to everyone. So thank you very much for tuning in. Blessed.